Let's see if this plays nice. All right, we're on pre-roll.
Look at that, fancy.
Yeah, the pre-roll is pretty fun. It's I've been messing around with OBS Studio a little bit.
Yeah, we use Ecamm Live. OBS was too complicated for me. I was just like, we tried it out like 2 years ago. I think it's definitely got a lot better. I'm sure user interface wise, but I was like, there's no fucking way I'm figuring this shit out.
Totally.
And,
I remember 2-3 years ago too. It was convoluted, and it was more like you had to be almost like a developer to understand the lingo.
Yeah, like a James Cameron, like director to actually use it.
Totally. Or his nerd assistant. James Cameron just walks up, and then his nerd assistant just fixes everything.
Yeah, the dude that he tells everything to do. Yeah, that guy. That's who you need to be.
All right, we got people coming in. We got 6 people already across a few platforms. Hey, everyone, do us a favor. If you can hear and see Maxwell, and if you can hear and see me, please just drop an emoji. Just drop a fire emoji.
But mainly just me.
Yeah, mainly just Maxwell. Drop a unicorn emoji.
If you can't hear D, yeah. So how does we haven't used OBS in a long time. So is it basically opens up the room, or how does that work for the stream?
You just literally link up OBS live stream into Restream.
Okay, into Restream.
Yeah, and then you're good.
Love it.
So once you've got the setups going, all you have to do, there we go. Faraz can hear us. Hey Faraz, what's going on? Once you plug it in, it just stays. It's a persistent. You don't even have to reset anything. It just goes in. Whereas before, I remember OBS back in the day, you had to reconnect it every time, so you had all this prep work to do.
Do you mind if I share this? Because this is in a group, or is this a page? This is the Growth and Greatness show. Is that I can share it out, right?
Yes, it is. It is a page. In fact, Hey, Belinda, what's going on? Got Topher coming in here as well now. Let me actually grab this for you, and then.
What's up, guys?
What's up, Topher? How's it going?
What's going on,
man? Doing awesome. You guys?
Good.
Life's good. D and I just catching up.
For sure. I've got this for you guys in the chat as well. I just threw it into the chat.
Oh, love it. Because I was going to share it, but if I had to write or think at all about what I had to write, no way. So
no writing or thinking. Just write it for my guests. They show up. You just share that.
That share button like 35 times.
I love how ready you guys are. Like, you guys are like have a studio ready. This is what you guys do, right?
Well, Topher, if you could actually see, if I turn the camera around, you would see like a Christmas wreath and all of our wedding gifts and stuff. So it looks good this way, but anything over there while we're building our house, it's a mess.
And that's exactly what a studio is.
Yeah,
that's what I was saying. Yeah, you guys have like a real studio. I'm just like here in the side office because my actual office is having rain fall through it. It's kind of gnarly.
So you weren't willing to do a special effects show where you're getting just rained on the whole time?
Yeah, no, it's starting to be mildewy and whatnot,
terrible.
And I haven't been able to work from home. It's like it's just not for me.
It's tough if you're not used to it. Like, I've just been very fortunate that we have our office downtown where I do like partner meetings and stuff there once a week, but I've gotten used to it. But yeah, if I was going there every day, it would definitely be a hard transition to get.
Oh, I did it for eight and a half years. I just have kids now. So it's like,
totally
not interested. You know?
Yeah, I'm lucky. We have Larissa's pregnant, so we don't have a kid yet. So it's just me, her, and the dogs.
Yeah, so you'll know what it's like. It's like it's actually like it's like a heart-wrenching thing. It's like not leaving. Like, my kids don't understand that, like, unless I leave the house, they think I'm not working. If I leave the house, it's like, oh, he's going to work today. But, you know, if I'm in the back room, they're like, wait, he's not working. He should play with us.
Liar.
So how you guys been, by the way?
Things
I'm doing great.
Yeah.
D, I'll
Nice.
let you go because I know there's a little bit of delay. So you share how you're doing, and then I'm gonna wait till you're done. And I'm gonna share how all my good things.
Things are. It's funny. We were bracing for the absolute worst. So things are really, all things considered, really on the up and up.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird thing. I'm sure we can talk about it at some point tonight, but it's a weird place to be in where we've diversified our businesses enough going to this that like things are going really well, but it's a hard thing to like, hey, our business is going great while all this other horrible stuff is happening, and just like wrapping your mind around that and like talking about it in a way that's not like our business is going great and everything's exciting. It's like there's so much pain and there's so, potentially 30% unemployment and all this stuff. It's tough to balance those two things of like, hey, this thing's going great, and then there's the world is on fire over here. And but yeah, because I know you guys are, we talked to Eric the other day, and just everything's going great with your offers and the network, and we're seeing some huge numbers.
It's crazy. Like we were 200% above goal this last week. Like our stretch goal. It's like,
wow.
What's, I was predicting that was going to happen because CPM's dropping and people staying at home, that we were going to at least experience that for a little while. But it's weird how like every week it's progressively going up. And the hardest thing for me has also been that whole, like, how do you like, you have positive things going on, but everyone in the world's not dealing with positive stuff, and everyone has different stuff going on in their communities. So.
Totally.
Yeah, that's very, very tricky to balance that stuff. Yeah, we're seeing like some of the CPMs that we're seeing are just stupid. It's like there's not even a time I remember where it was like this, especially the international stuff. Like we're running for some offers that are just crushing like worldwide, and I shit you not, like there's like some campaigns where it's like 12-cent CPMs, just like the dumbest thing ever, like $1.50
on Facebook.
On Facebook. For like for certain offers, like supplements and stuff, there's like a supplement right now that's worldwide, and it's actually like people are buying. It's not just like you can get like really cheap traffic in the Philippines or like Vietnam and stuff. This is like it's interesting.
Yeah, that's wild.
By the way, when I started buying media, that's like what the cost of clicks were. Like it was like a penny to 25-cent CPMs was like the average because internet. But people weren't buying on the internet back then either, so it was a different world altogether.
That's kind of what's happening right now, right? It's like you have this, it's almost a return to those early days where there was so much supply and so little demand. And you're kind of having that now. You just have a lot of people balking and walking away, and people have nothing to do other than be on their phones and be on Facebook and Google all day.
Totally. We got 26 people in here. Again, let's do a bit of a tech check. If you can hear us, if you can see us, especially Maxwell and especially Topher.
Yep.
Don't worry about me. Drop in a unicorn emoji or a fire emoji. Let us know that you're all good in there. And if you got pals that need to see this, tag them in there too. We need a GiddyUp emoji. We do need a GiddyUp emoji.
Yeah, we have one.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. We haven't dropped it yet though. We got new branding coming out, and we like specifically had an icon that's an emoji. It's pretty rad. That's awesome.
Well, when that's out, people watch the replay, they can drop that.
Yeah, that'll be good. Well, I'm glad that you just told me, D, that we're on. I didn't even realize.
Oh, it's just a pre-roll. So I run a pre-roll just to get warmed up and let everyone come into the room, have their, I guess it's the physical version of have their snacks and talk shop in the background before we kick off.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Hey, how long have you been, Max? How long have you been running international traffic? I didn't know that's something you did.
It's been about only 3 or 4 weeks. So there's just one campaign that we're running.
I'm just gonna go live, and then we'll.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then we'll do that. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, super awesome. I am so glad that everyone is here. We are live today on episode 3 of the Growth and Greatness Show. again, always grateful to have guests with me. They're so busy, and the times right now are so insane. I've got Maxwell Finn here, a 2 Comma Club winner, really trusted Facebook ads advisor and expert. He's my go-to guy. We were just talking just before the show. We were talking and how I watch his YouTube videos to understand where things are at, where, what to think about, what's coming next, and also how to run an interview show. Super glad to have him here. We've got Topher Grant as well. He's the CEO and co-founder of GiddyUp, which is an e-commerce performance network. And, we've been talking for a fair while already. Super excited to have these two guys on the show. And let me just jump over and we can have everyone in view right now. Let's kick this thing off. I'm so happy that you guys are here. It's funny, Topher actually had a question. He was just throwing over to Maxwell. Let's just finish that question off. Just in terms of running traffic, it'll be a really good time also for everyone
to frame it a little bit. I was just saying, like, for a long time we've been doing international, and about 40% of our traffic and sales happen around the globe. And I didn't know that Maxwell was running international traffic. So I was just, most of the people that run international traffic with us, lo and behold, they live internationally. So I was just kind of curious about how long you've been doing it and what kind of got you into it.
Yeah, so we opened it up for On It. So we've been running a lot of their supplement stuff, and it's just crushing right now. I mean, like, we're just kind of expanding through the product line, and that market right now, whether it's like work from home stuff, which is going to help, whether it's like focus, whether it's stress reduction, anxiety reduction, whether it's workout from home, is just killing. And we found is if something works really well domestically, it translates really well. Now it depends on the product, right? It depends on the industry, but for like supplements and stuff like that, it translates really well, easily to like Australia, Canada, UK, most of Western Europe. And for like some of these products, it's just been wide open, like worldwide. And like across the board, like whether it's Puerto Rico or Singapore or Australia or Sweden, Norway, like those countries are doing really well. It's amazing because it's the economics of it right now. It's just costs are so insanely low, and you've lost so much demand from advertisers, and there's just so much attention now, people on Facebook and on Google, that you just have all these eyeballs. Nobody's bidding on these eyeballs. And so our thing is like, how can we scale as fast as possible and take advantage of this? Because it's not going to last forever, right? Like, we have a window here of time before things start to recover and go back to normal.
Totally. Yeah. And I one of the things I was going to point out is that international CPMs are always lower than domestic. Yep. The North American ad market was the first to develop, and the rest of the world, while internet usage obviously is even like higher in other places, advertising isn't as mature, so costs are just lower. So that's been if you get something working in a domestic market and you can sell it internationally, that's usually the fastest and easiest way to scale it, even before you go to other platforms.
Yeah, without a doubt.
So I'm really glad we kicked off there to really give everyone a taster of what's to come in terms of the conversation, mainly because of the fact that both of you bring a really unique perspective to the table, right? We've got Maxwell, who, I know that you and your team have worked really hard to diversify your business, knowing that a pullback was going to happen at some point. You've been fairly vocal about that on your videos as well. And then Topher, on your side, having a really eagle-eye view on, it's not like you're running traffic. You really are sitting on the platform and on the network, interfacing not only with the advertisers and the marketers themselves, but also, in network lingo, the publishers themselves, but also on the other side, the clients, the brands that are actually pushing things. So it's a really unique perspective. Could you give our audience, for those that don't know who you guys are, could you give us just a quick summary of what you're working on and what you're working with, just so that we can understand the breadth and the depth of your experience or what you're seeing in terms of insight? Topher, maybe we can start with you and then we can head over to Maxwell.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I've been a marketer for 15 years. That's pretty much the only job I've ever had, is being an entrepreneur and a marketer and a salesperson. So I started buying ads when you actually, like, before internet ads was a thing, and when you used to sign insertion orders and buy like direct placements on websites, etc. Back in the day, and so I've kind of seen the advent of these different ad platforms from Google. In the beginning, it was email and search. Organic search was the only thing, and then Google started selling ads, and Facebook was a platform, and everyone was trying to figure out how to monetize organic before paid was a thing. So that's kind of like show you the scope of how long I've been doing this. At GiddyUp, we've launched well over 100 e-commerce brands in a performance-only way, meaning that we sell their products and we do it on a CPA-only basis. We don't charge any fees or retainers or upfront costs. We just do it on a performance basis. And the reason why is that there's an unprecedented amount of scale when you don't just have one agency working for you, but you enable the power of performance partnerships. And you can get people like Max, who we've worked together. That's how we know each other. And 10 other people working on promoting your campaign, not just on one platform, but on 10, and not just in one country, but on 10. So I got into this because I really love what this enables for innovation and for brands that have a cool product to be able to bring it to a much larger audience. And so hearing what you're talking about, Max, with On It is awesome, because I've been using their products for like 5 years now, and I think they're really cool products. And so hearing that they've incentivized you to get that product in the hands of more people, that's what I love about performance marketing and partnerships. And so at GiddyUp, we currently run I think over 50 campaigns. They're running in a couple dozen countries and across ad platforms. So we're like product agnostic, country agnostic, and platform agnostic at GiddyUp. And I stopped buying media a while ago, and now kind of steer this ship, right? Which the goal is more brands, more partners, and ultimately more revenue for both sides, right? For the brands and the partners, because we win when they win.
Beautiful. See, I told you guys, unique perspective from Topher right there. It's one that you don't usually get talking to traffic people, that's for sure. Maxwell, over to you, man.
That's not, I mean, and Topher, it's, I'm going to toot Topher's horn a little bit and GiddyUp's horn, but like, I've spoken to a lot of people over the years. I've been in rooms with a lot of like really, really smart people. Topher and I it was dinner or I forget we sat down together for like an hour or so in San Diego about a year ago. And it was still to this day, like one of the most like enlightening, like just incredible conversations that I've had. Like the wisdom that comes from him and the experience he has is insane. So I'm excited to, for everyone else to be able to learn stuff today. And also, I mean, for us, like we started out, my partner, Jeremy and I, we had an agency with Kevin Harrington for 2 years called Quantum Media, and it was full service, and we ran ads for everybody under the sun. Right. So we were at the same time running ads for 3M, which is now 3M's had this massive resurgence of relevancy because they're making all the masks and stuff and doing amazing work. And, this Bob's Trinkets down here, like just this massive range. And we had launched our own internal offer, which is our Trump coin collectible offer, and partnered with GiddyUp. And the amount of scale that we're able to do, and that was my first taste performance, was off the charts. Like there was no possible way that we would have been able to build a business that at one point was doing like $300,000 a day during inauguration weekend in under about a month and a half without a partnership like that. So that kind of showed us the power of, hey, like why are we running ads for other people when we can build our own offers and build our own assets? And so for the last 2 years, Unicorn has really been about, okay, we're still going to run a boutique type agency because we still love helping other businesses and we get to work with some really cool selective businesses and clients. But we're going to focus more of our time on building our own stuff and owning it instead of building somebody else's business. And so we have our own internal properties. Our biggest one right now is our Unicorn Politics business, which has a few brands under the umbrella, mainly in the collectible space. And then we have an info product business where we do training. And I mean, that's really like our big thing right now. And then performance is the newer one. So performance marketing division where we run offers. And we're actually building our own property under that called Unicorn Products, where we'll be hosting listicles, doing our own product reviews, and treating it more like a business instead of just running traffic from Facebook to somebody else's business. So that's really our big focus right now is our politics, business, and performance marketing right now.
Amazing.
Nice.
So, you know, for those of you out there that are e-commerce brand owners, and I know that there are a few agency owners amongst you, predominantly, you guys are going to be business owners for sure, or some type of an entrepreneur watching this. I hope you can see what these fellows are going to bring to the table in terms of insights. Any questions that you have, please throw them into the comments. We will get to them closer to the end of the show. We usually dedicate the last 20, 15 minutes just to be able to answer any questions. And, you know, feel free to ask them now, ask them later as thoughts go through. But just remember to do that in the chat just so that we can get to any questions that you have. That's why you're here on the live in the first place. Now, for the people that are watching, fellas, there was an analogy in last week's show. We had Mike Rhodes, who is the owner of Web Savvy, an agency here in Australia, and he brought up this analogy of this visual analogy of the infinity symbol, and, you know, living in the present versus living in the past, or thinking in the past and then hitting the present where the intersection is, and then being in the future. I've always seen both of you in the ways that you spoke publicly and also in person, being able to go through the entire gamut of going, okay, I need to start thinking in the future for a bit for my company, but then bring it back to the present, and then take it into the past. So I know a lot of people right now, especially business owners, are fairly frozen in their steps in terms of, you know, because of the uncertainty, right? So I think it'd be really great to, from your own perspectives, hear about what you're seeing based on the realm of data that you guys have around consumer data and how consumers are behaving. Some people, for example, I speak to some e-com business owners and even agency owners, and they're going, no one's buying right now. It's almost like a sweeping statement. No one's spending any money right now. Everyone's just staying home and eating out of, you know, canned food, and that's their entire outlook on everyone. Meanwhile, there are others, like we're looking at accounts right now that are we're increasing ad spend, right? Mm-hmm. And we're just going again, like Maxwell. I remember you talking about it in one of your videos. It's not knowing what's coming next. You got to make the best of what you got now. So it really is scaling now when you can. What are you guys seeing on your side in terms of customer behavior, customer trends currently? Either one of you. Yeah.
It's over. You want me to start? Okay. So I think what's interesting is, and I don't want to get too down the rabbit hole. We talked about this before, D, like of keeping on track. So I'll do my best here. I don't want to make it too like economic driven conversation about socioeconomics. And like what I would say though, is there is a direct correlation. If you look at every major recession that's happened throughout at least American history, but you can go back even further than that, the wealth gap usually increases substantially during or right after those periods of time, because what ends up happening is people that are kind of more risk tolerant and have capital to deploy and see opportunities, and keep cool heads, they act when other people are reacting, right? So when people are selling stock and they're selling their homes and they're dumping and they're running and hiding under a rock until it passes, other people are buying their houses. They're investing in the stock market because they're not playing like a 1 week or 1 month game. They're looking over, you know, years and decades. And so if you were that person 10 years ago in, 2008 or 12 years ago, you participated in one of the longest bull market runs in history, and you made a ton of money. And so I think it's important for us to have a similar mentality. Now, this is different in the sense that this is not anything that really monetary or fiscal policy can like affect. Like the Fed has basically pulled every single lever they can pull, and they basically just said, we're going to buy every asset indefinitely, and we're going to keep interest rates at zero. But it's a disease, right? So there's not much that can we're in this weird time where we don't know what's going to happen, how long it's going to last. What I would say is that things are going to go back to normal at some point, whether it's 6 months from now, 12 months from now, 18 months from now. People are going to come out of this and they're going to go back to doing things. Behavior might change a little bit, but and so if you're running a business right now, like freezing is not going to ensure you get to the other side, right? It's about being dynamic and pivoting. So, hey, I run a gym. Okay, my gym's closed. Nobody's coming to my gym. Do I just say, well, I'm SOL, I'm going to close the doors? Or do you say, well, wait, people still need to work out. If anything, people want to work out more than ever because they're stressed. What if I created a online program? What if I started saying, hey, if you're a member of our gym and you keep your membership, we're going to have our trainers every day do 3 or 5 classes live stream to our group. There are so many ways to continue to make money, retain customers, get new customers by even just like a small pivot. That's not a dramatic pivot. That's pretty small. And that gets you through the short term. But it also, when you come out of this, you're going to have another income stream. You're going to be diversified. You're going to have an info product business, a training business, online business, but you're also going to have your physical business when it comes back, right? So for me, that's like the biggest thing that I'm seeing is there's people that are doing really well right now in all industries because they're being dynamic and they're pivoting. And I know somebody basically in every single industry and in some of the hardest hit industries. And there are people out there that are making money and growing, that are hiring right now because they just turned a little bit. And so that's my biggest piece of advice for anybody is like, don't just freeze and put your head in the sand, because then you're definitely screwed. Then you have zero shot, right? At least try something. Like do a pivot, try anything. It's better than just staying still, firing your entire team and praying that you don't get foreclosed on, and your forbearance protection lasts long enough for the doors to open. Like that just is a 0% chance of working, right? I'd rather take a 1% chance than a 0% chance.
I like the way you think about this, Maxwell. It seems you clearly have this political backing, and so I'm going to take it a whole different way and go philosophical for a moment. Beautiful. One of the reasons why I got why sales and marketing is the focus of my career is because I believe it's a life skill rather than like a job skill. As long as people want jobs, what they have to understand is nobody has a job until someone goes out and sells something, until money's brought into the door. It's what fuels like all these systems, And so if you're an agency, now's a great time for any agency. Now's a great time for anyone who has skills in being able to sell other people's products. And so when I knew that an economic downturn was due to hit at any time, and I thought 2020 was a good time for it. And so personally, I divested and got heavy into cash just because of what I expected to happen on the political side. And that just has to do with the timing. It's been 12 years since the last downturn, as well as the U.S. election cycle. It seemed like a really likely time that it was going to happen. Obviously, I didn't know that there was going to be a global pandemic that would exacerbate it. But yeah, that's one of the reasons why I'm in this place. So I think that companies that have something to offer, there are going to be certain areas of consumer spending that are just going to stop, right? Like events, for instance, and travel. But those are mandated, government mandates are saying you can't spend money here right now. And so there's going to be a lot of companies that are going to go out, and there's going to be an interesting turnover of companies. But for companies that aren't happening that way, what you were saying, people saying is oh, people aren't buying right now. That reminds me of what people were saying about Facebook ads 6 years ago. Oh, nobody buys from Facebook, oh, Facebook doesn't work, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you believe that nobody's buying right now, then nobody will be. And so I earnestly, I like to operate in this paradigm. That infinity symbol that you talked about, Mike, I use it all the time, but it's just for any duality, whether past and present and future. But let's just say right now, fear versus faith, being the idea of fear, hoping a bad outcome doesn't happen, versus faith, hoping a positive outcome does happen. I think that leaning towards hoping for a positive outcome enables you to look for opportunities and enables you to find opportunities that you wouldn't have seen. And so I think it's dangerous actually to be concerned that you're not going to be able to sell your product because that doesn't enable you to actually find the opportunities where it's going to happen. So I told everyone right when this was happening, hey, I actually think CPMs are going to go down. Just looking at 2008, big advertising. I mean, overall advertising went down 12, 15% spend because big companies do pull back. And that's a common protectionist idea, is pulling back, like Maxwell was saying. But that means that there's more opportunity to go get market share because as big companies pull back, people that are nimble and are able to try lots of things can figure it out. But at the same time, people like three of us who sell other people's products for a living, we have flexibility, right? If you only have one product, that makes it more difficult because you really have to determine are people buying my product or not? But it's one of the big values of partner marketing or performance marketing is that you can get a lot of people to try to answer that question for you. And performance marketers generally are extremely nimble because, products are like the economic environments are always changing, countries are always different, platforms are always changing, CPMs are always changing. And so they have to adapt at a rapid rate. And it's the only industry I know of that people count, revenue and profit on a daily basis. And so they change much faster than in other places. So, I feel super grateful that we, that are in this business and that everything's trending up for us. That doesn't negate the reality that I know lots of people are feeling for their health, for their livelihoods, for their psyche. I can't imagine how all this fear mongering is affecting people, especially shut in their houses. But at the same time, for business owners and for people that are responsible to generate capital for other people and for their employees, the worst thing you could do right now is be afraid and shut things down. You really need to figure out how to navigate through this and find the opportunity in an uncertain time.
Yeah, I love both of you, the perspectives that you guys bring to the table. It's so interesting talking about fear mongering, Topher, because every time I turn on the news or I check my Twitter feed and hit the search button, every single headline has the word death, has the word infections, and has the word rising, and you hit it right on the head. If you are stuck at home or stuck in an echo chamber, that can very easily be the reality of, I'm sitting in here, that's exactly what's happening outside in the world. So that dogmatic view of everybody becomes a very real thing. I also love what you're talking about with the mindset of hoping, the fear versus faith, hoping something won't happen versus having faith that something great will happen and preparing for that. The way that I'm seeing a lot of brands, as well as anyone that has a public face, like a info product or some type of public educator, the way that I'm seeing them freeze in their marketing tends to come from to my belief, I'd love to hear you guys' opinion, tends to come from the fear of being tone deaf, right? It's a bit like the Gal Gadot thing. I don't want to come across like I'm pushing product in a time where, I don't want to be slammed by the internet because I'm singing Imagine Having No Possessions in my multi-million-dollar mansion. How do I, especially for those that are also thinking, wait, is everybody not spending? Is everybody just sitting at home, not wanting to see content like that? So how do I, as a brand owner, navigate these waters, still hit business objectives, but not come across like I'm completely just ignorant or not insensitive with the current issue?
And my thinking on it is, it's the balancing act between, and it's a very interesting question, and it's something we've thought about a lot. There's this mindset out there that nobody can make money right now. If you make money right now, you're bad. There's just people out there. It's like, you shouldn't be able to make money during this crisis. And my thing is, well, if that was the case, then we'd have, 70% unemployment, right? We as business owners have a responsibility. I have a responsibility as a business owner to my employees, to my family, and my employees' family, and the ripple effect there, to make money so they can continue living and not be unemployed. So that's what I tell myself first, is that's my responsibility. If you're run a public company, you have a fiduciary duty to your shareholders, right? The people that have invested in the company, you have a responsibility to take care of them. Now, that doesn't mean that you go out there and you abuse the system or take advantage of what's happening and use fear to sell a product that doesn't actually solve a problem. So for us, it's okay. People have real problems right now, and they are looking for solutions to those problems. So if I have a product over here that is a great product from a great brand that I know actually solves a real problem that people have, then me marketing that and presenting it in that way, I don't view that as a negative. And of course, you're going to have people that are just very pissed right now. You have people that are angry right now, emotional right now, and they're going to say things. But like, you can't operate your business based on the loudest person, because the loudest people are a minority. The most vocal are usually a minority on the negative side of things. And so what I focus on is the numbers, right? Are people buying this? Because if it's profitable and making money and scaling, like, it's resonating with people who have the problem. They're buying it. Um, I think the other thing you can do right now is tie in ways that you're actually giving back and helping. So it's a balancing act of, hey, I want to make money right now and grow my business, but I also am in a place where I can help, whether that's me personally helping relatives with phone payments or rent payments, things like that, or it's me giving to organizations, or me, tipping every Uber driver, Uber Eats driver a lot of money. Like, I want to be able to help. And so if I can put something into our business, whether it's a nonprofit or some kind of program of how we're helping doctors or nurses or people that are hungry right now, that's another thing. And a survey came out on Facebook yesterday, I believe, that basically said, and I think Depeche shared this, basically said, what people care about most right now in the ads they're seeing is, does the company, are they doing something like to give back right now? And what are they doing? Those are the two most important things. It was like 8% of people said they're looking for deals and discounts. That's what they're looking for right now, which was pretty shocking to me, that people just want to know that the business I'm buying something from, that they're not just trying to hoard cash and pay out big salaries and bonuses and distributions, that they're growing, they're hiring. That's great. But they're also, contributing to their local and, kind of worldwide community.
Yeah, I think that's awesome, by the way. This has been one of the most challenging things for me, because I'm, that whole like fear paradigm, like I'm like the eternal optimist. Like I am always looking for the upside in everything. And I don't really, it's not that I don't recognize the downside. It's that like, I like to look at fear, analyze like, okay, how should I change my life based on this message? And then like done, like I don't hold on to it. But that's not the way the world works. Right. And right now, most people don't understand the economics of how media companies work, and how they're really incented to get you to just get impressions, right? And the more impressions and more clicks that they get you to have, the more money that they make. And so the thing that I think most people need to be concerned with is how the media companies are taking advantage of this situation, not the people like Max and I, who are literally going out and finding products that help people live a little better and solve problems in their lives. And we have both decided not to use fear or exacerbate the fear in the world to sell products. That was like, we don't do that, right? Because I don't want to like make the world a more fearful place. And I don't think that that's a good outcome. But that's exactly what media companies are doing. And now that we have the echo chamber of social media, we're like doing it to ourselves, and they're the ones benefiting from it. Just like in a political cycle, the people that who win the most, it doesn't matter which political party wins, the media companies win, because all that advertising dollars goes straight through them. And so I think that that's one thing to understand, is that there's actually an incentive, I think it's a negative incentive, creates a negative cycle to create fear in your life and keep you in a place of fear where you want to pay attention every day to what's happening, because like you need to know, right? And so I think that's one thing. And on the other side, with the positivity and me being able to temper it, it has to just have like, you have to have one foot in reality. As I mentioned, people's health, people are concerned for their health, people are concerned for their livelihoods, people are concerned for their economies and retirement, and they're also in this fear world. And I think that like, you can't be tone deaf where you just ignore that, that they're all dealing with that. But one of my mentors just told me earlier this week, dealing with this messaging thing, like how do I temper my positivity, but still bring a message of encouragement and hope to people, is you have to be able to keep one foot in reality while you have the rest of yourself in a really hopeful future, and that I don't feel bad about trying to bring encouragement to people or trying to bring hope into people's lives and help them understand that like, this is a season, it will be over. The world isn't ending, no matter what you hear on the internet, like that's no signs point to the world ending today. So like, it's okay to pay attention to what's happening, but I recommend everyone kind of compartmentalize that in this season, especially like an election season. Like you should pay attention to what's going on, but maybe like for 30 minutes a day at this one point, and don't let it consume all of your mind share, because that's not productive, and it's not going to help your friends or family have jobs and feed their kids and all that fun stuff.
Absolutely. It's there's a term that I learned last week or the week before that is showing up more and more now. Virtue signaling. I don't know if you gents have heard the term before. I haven't until 2 weeks ago, and that seems to be where brands are tripping over. What I mean by that is even the ones that aren't going so far as to saying, let's use this current event and let's use the angle of fear or of, just fabricating scarcity or any of those negative emotions to in a bid to sell our stuff. The virtue signaling, there seems to be this pocket of people and brands and public personas that seem to have a stance on it, and I'm seeing so many miss the mark, right? Meanwhile, and I'd love to hear you guys' opinion on this. Meanwhile, there are the ones that, for example, I'm looking at all the different direct to consumer brands right now, and a big one, ASOS out of the UK, ASOS Men and ASOS on their Instagram account, and they seem to be walking the line really gracefully in terms of humor, as well as humor about the current situation is almost the one that's the most well received in terms of the comments. And then on the other side, zero virtue signaling whatsoever, and just saying their ads are really simple. It's a model. The creative is a model in his bedroom wearing an outfit, and feel comfortable at home, shop here. That's about it. So based on the products that you guys are marketing for right now and selling, are you noticing that phenomenon as well, where there are, like what I'm trying to get to here is, as an e-commerce brand, should every post have commentary around what's happening, or is it okay to have just business as usual posts, to go, this is our outfit, you'll feel great in it, this is our jewelry, you'll look great in it?
I don't think you need to go overboard with like incorporating it. It shouldn't feel forced. So that what you're talking about is basically people feel a need that I have to talk about it and have to address it, because if I don't, the people are going to be like, why are you talking about it? So if you're genuinely just like a good company, like there's a lot of companies out there that all year round are doing cool stuff. Like they're doing great, like they have great nonprofits. They have created, they give to a lot of things. And so it's natural for them to want to support different organizations right now. I think you need to be aware that, like, we as marketers, we market around what's topical and what's going on, like current event wise. Like we can't virtue signal, but you also can't just ignore reality, right? The reality is that the world that we knew 2 months ago doesn't exist today. That the entire world, you have pretty much every American is shelter in place. I think there's 5 states left that don't have a direct mandate to do that. So you have 200 plus million Americans that literally every part of their life has been altered dramatically. They can't go to movies anymore. They can't go to work anymore. They can't go get a haircut anymore. And so, like, you need to address that in your ads. Like, consumer behavior has changed. So the way I market a product needs to change. Like, I can't keep marketing a product as if the world's normal and talk in a way that like doesn't make sense anymore, because that's equally as tone deaf. If I'm like talking about,
yes,
marketing Rolexes and Lamborghinis, and that's like, it doesn't jive what's going on right now. Nobody's going test driving cars and doing stuff like that. So I think it's subtle, right? It's like, if you're marketing a product like Alpha Brain, for example, that's just the easiest one in front of me. And it's supposed to be for memory and focus, repositioning that to a work from home. Hey, you're working from home. Guess what? It's a lot harder to be focused when you have kids running around, you have everyone crammed in a place, you might have 2 generations, 3 generations with you. Like, it's really hard to focus right now. this is a great supplement that will help you, get your work done, stay focused, and stay sane, right? So you don't have to like force it in there, but it's also recognizing like, hey, it's harder to focus, and this product helps you focus. And there's a lot of products out there. If you're a fitness product, hey, you can't go to the gym anymore. Your gym's closed. It's more important than ever to get, if you want to get rid of stress and anxiety, working out for 30 minutes is a great way to do that. So we put together a great workout from home program. And so I think that's the balance is I believe right now on paid traffic, at least, like you have to incorporate some element of it, not the virus. Like I don't give a crap about like talking about coronavirus or COVID-19 or whatever. It's like, what has that done to alter our daily behavior? And then talking about that new consumer behavior. That's really, I think, what needs to be incorporated into almost everything is the way people are acting right now. And that's just a result of what's happened. You don't have to talk about the reason. It's just, this is the normal, and we're going to incorporate that into our marketing.
Right. Addressing, and it's almost like a brand saying, I see you, I hear you, I'm
Yes.
with you. Yeah.
I know what your problems are right now.
Yeah. I think that's like always the thing, right? Like in advertising, you're just like people are doing something else and you're a distraction, right? So you have to like bridge the gap for where they're at to like where you want them to go. But I definitely don't think you're going to sell much based on selling your virtues. I think you have to sell benefits of your product ultimately. And I think that when like I live in Southern California, which is kind of the mecca of virtue signaling. Like celebrities are probably the best at it, and when it goes from being a principle-based person to virtual signaling, just has to do with whether or not that thing you're saying is congruent with the rest of your life. And I really believe it's important to be a principle-based person and to have things that you live by that kind of are unmoving. You feel like they're the prime things in your life. But I don't think that it also is good to try to like flag those out there as a means to sell. I think that like people can see through that, and it's something that feels phony, and something will likely get you mocked on the internet. So when you're selling a product, it's better just to sell the benefits to people. And my partner Eric always likes to say, it's like, Mario plus the fire flower equals a guy that spits fire. Like that's how you sell something. You don't sell the fire flower, you sell the guy that spits fire. But you not being tone deaf is
that's amazing, by the way. That was so good.
I'm sure that he got it from somewhere else, so like we could give him credit, but I'm sure some other brilliant mind came up with it. But I love that idea because it's like so many people, when you have a product, you think about the features and you're trying to sell the flower rather than like the person getting it and the benefit it gives them. But at the same time, not being tone deaf has to do with just understanding that advertising, like that first click, is about just like getting them out of the distraction, and their entire feeds, whether they're watching YouTube right now or they're on Facebook or wherever they are, they're being bombarded with these messages about what's going on in the world. And as Max said, they're sitting at home, which is a new thing for most people. And so I think that, yeah, it's relevant to address maybe the circumstances without being like, and that's why we're taking care of the world and making it a better place. It's like, are you though? Like, that's what that question it drives. And that's when people say, oh, you're virtue signaling, which people do all the time. And I also think big agencies are pretty good at that. Like they want you to virtue signal,
Totally agree.
Like not like our agencies, but I mean like Madison Avenue. Like that's like
the really big ones. Yeah,
the real big dogs. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So everyone, we're getting close to the final 15 minutes of the show. If you do have any questions, put them into the comments. I'm just going to keep the show going because I'm learning a whole bunch from this. So unless a question pops up, I'm just going to keep asking mine. So just remember to throw it into the comments. Now, I respect both of you guys so much because the types of brains that you have fascinate me so much. And I know a lot of the smartest people I know, especially entrepreneurs, are in some way, shape, or form great chess players in terms of figuring out what the permutations of the possible next 6 moves might look like, right? You scenario plan ahead of time to go. It could be plan A, plan B, plan C, and if everything goes to shit, there's still a plan D, probably all the way to F, depending on what type of brain you have. Now, moving into that future where we come out the other side of this, can you share some of the scenarios that you see or you have considered, have popped up in your head? Are people going to, because I remember, for example, during the Second World War, and studying that for my film major, and understanding that during that time of duress, escapism was a really big thing. So the entertainment industry and the comic book industry just went. And when that pressure was finally lifted, for example, CNN just dropped a news article that even though China's saying they're lifting the quarantine and they're still recommending social distancing, all these tourist spots are just flooded with tens of thousands of people. And that seems to be the phenomenon when that pressure lifts. So what are some of the places, the chess moves that you see happening?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think what's interesting about what's happening right now is that it truly is unprecedented. You know, you have the Spanish flu, and it was there's some good documentation of that from like newspapers and stuff, but it's still like we don't have a clear. It was a different world, right? The world wasn't connected. There was no globalization, and so the impact was far less pronounced in terms of like having an impact for decades. I think this is going to, again, this is all just opinions at this point. Like I really do think this is going to have a lasting impact on consumer behavior and on just how human beings interact. Like I think, let's say if there's a vaccine or a serious therapy that actually gets real legs, right? And 6 months from now that happens, I don't see the doors bursting open and people just going into crowded restaurants again and, going to packed stadiums, at least for months, if not years. I think it's going to be quite a while before people start going to large gatherings, before people start crowding restaurants, people start crowding gyms and stuff. And so I think what's going to be interesting is seeing how companies adapt to allow people that have to kind of be more self-isolated to still be connected. And you're already kind of seeing that happen with even like dating apps. Like Tinder rolled out and I give a shout out because that's where my wife and I, we met each other. We were like an OG Tinder case study, like that's year amazing. One, first date. And, but they're doing, video chat now, because people are home and they still need to have these deep social bonds, but they can't go out and interact with people. So I think we're going to see I think there's going to be some industries that aren't going to recover. I don't think so. Like, I don't think the cruise industry, I just don't see a human being getting on a cruise line in the next few years. I just don't see it. It's not even so much because of the fact that they're just like petri dishes essentially, but it's what you're seeing now where you have thousands of people just stranded. Nobody will take them in, right? Like they're just floating in the ocean. So I think certain industries are going to be either just like wiped out for a short period of time or just dramatically downsized, and have to really restructure the way that the businesses operate. In terms of like business in general, especially like entrepreneurship, I think what this will finally, hopefully push people to do is to take diversification and like risk mitigation strategies more seriously. I think if you're basically any millennial and younger, we haven't existed in a world as an adult that wasn't like boom. Literally the last 12 years has been a rocket ship. You literally could throw money at anything and you made money. You throw it in the stock market, you throw it at houses, you throw it at it was just up, right? And so life seems pretty good when there's no pullbacks, when there's no risks, when there's no downside. And people are a lot less likely to think about those things happening, even though for years people have been saying there's going to be a pullback, there's going to be a recession. Topher said it like it was inevitable. Nobody knew this black swan event was going to happen, but like it was inevitable something was going to happen. And the businesses right now that are diversified, that aren't all in on one product, that aren't all in on one service, that actually have multiple product lines, multiple income streams, that they have cash that they've been sitting on. They're not all into a single stock or put all their money into Airbnb rentals. Like they're going to thrive right now because they have the powder dry to invest and make a lot of money. So I think that I'm optimist like Topher. I hope that this is kind of the point that pushes people to see that, hey, like even economically and politically things could happen. Even that stuff goes perfect. There's these viruses like come out of nowhere. Like nobody saw this kind of just within literally like 8 weeks, the entire world is shut down. I think that's going to make the biggest change for like across all businesses, beyond the social distancing and consumer behavior changes and all that stuff, but more the financial planning, the risk mitigation planning, diversification, and not being as happy-go-lucky all the time and thinking it's going to be all rainbows forever.
Totally. By the way, being like an amateur philosopher, there's kind of like lots of ways I can answer this question. And the one thing that's like stands out to me most is that like there's this, it's weird that the script got flipped, right? Like that we went from being like inclusion is good and like exclusion is bad to like everything outside of your family is bad, you know, like stay in your bubble. And so like, I have no idea what this is going to do to people's psyche. Like, I don't know if people are going to get out of this and immediately just want to embrace social behaviors again because they've been so lacking it, or if there's going to be a major fear. Like, you know, I don't know if everyone's going to travel immediately because like, I can't wait to travel again, or if everyone's going to be like afraid of travel. You know, it's a really like, this has never happened. I mean, did any of you guys have an idea that this could even happen? Like, I remember when it was early days, I mean, I heard about it when it was happening in China and we were prepping it for it on a supply chain, you know, because like we just pay attention to what's going on in China and help our brands work through those issues. But when it started coming here and the governor was like, I'm recommending people, you know, I'm recommending bars shut down. And I was like, can he even do that? Like, can he tell bars just to shut down? Like, that seemed like a liability to taxpayers. Like, who's going to pay for those bars? Like, who's going to, like, I just didn't even comprehend it. It was really weird to me as I was hearing this happen. I didn't understand that authority existed. And now even at the end of it, like, we don't know what the size of it's going to be until it's over. And even looking at the numbers, you know, like looking at the CDC, it's like, hey, here's how many cases, but not all of them have actually been proven. Some of them are just presumed based on symptoms. It's like, really, it's going to be interesting. It's going to take years to untangle what happens. And it's definitely going to be like a milestone event in, at least in the 21st century and in modern history. But how it's going to affect people, how it's going to affect consumer buying behavior, yeah, I don't know. And like Darwin says, it's not like the strongest or the smartest that survive. It's those that are most able to adapt, right? Like that's the idea of whatever is fittest is the thing that's able to deal with the changes. And I think that's like the thing that I get out of understanding, you know, evolution theory is like that, you know, that the world is continuing to change and the environment's changing, and we live in a world that's so miraculous that like everything can adapt to change. And so if you've seen how all the local businesses are adapting to stay-at-home orders, it's pretty crazy, right? But it's clear that like the delivery industry is going up, you know, and that like there's a lot of industries that benefit from this. Like one thing that seems interesting to me is like more families seem to be connecting over video conferencing than before. And I know we all were doing that, but I don't think the globe had been doing it in this level. I also think that like there's more people working from home. There might be a lot of people, I was talking to my team about it, you know, 25% of my team works from home all the time and 75% works from an office. And part of when we hire people that like for a remote role, because I want to be willing to hire anyone who's great at their job, you know, when I'm looking for someone, not just here where I am, I ask myself, have they ever worked from home before? Do they know what it is? It's very different to work from home than to not work from home. And so, well, now the whole world's getting an experience in it, you know? And so it's interesting how like those things might change, but there's too many scenarios. And really, I'm just playing out the scenarios right now for my business, not like for the world. And I think like I'm expecting economic downturn. We already were. And all that's doing is changing the types of businesses that we're promoting, you know? Because ultimately we expect economic downturn globally to do really well for sales and marketing businesses that are able to adapt and change what they sell. Because, you know, in 2008, you know, it was like, oh, we're down $1 trillion globally, but it's like, yeah, but there's still, you know, 12 trillion, like money's still changing hands. It's just less. And so it impacts the big businesses and the global economics in a way that's very different than, our businesses. And if you look at it on a bell curve saying, oh, the economy is down 10%. Well, like, are you at the bottom of the curve or at the top of the curve? Like in terms of, your intelligence, in terms of your fitness, in terms of like your, economics, like where are you on that curve and where do you expect to be? I think a lot of people who are entrepreneurs should kind of see themselves on the front of that curve more than on the back of that curve, and identify like how can they stay on the front of that curve. But what this is going to do for consumer behavior and what's going to do for the world and the global psyche, like I have no idea. And as a philosopher, it's a really weird shift where you watch, Justin Trudeau kind of dressing up like other people, and then, 1 week, and then the next week he's like, don't even go talk to your neighbors. It's like, it's a total flip, And I just wonder what that's going to do to like the global politics and to the world. I have no idea.
Well, just major industries too. And I know there were some questions. It's all D. So and I'm more than happy to, like, I don't know Topher's schedule. I'm more than happy to hang out for a few extra and answer questions. But like, there's such a ripple effect in major industries, right? So if you're a bank or a credit card company or a mortgage servicer, like you're used to knowing that, hey, I can write a mortgage. And sorry, my dog is just like whining over here. We put him in this like skin tight suit because he's been biting himself. So he's not happy with it at all. And he's not supposed to be in here at all. So like you write mortgages, somebody can't, I'm going to get $1 million house. They don't have $1 million in cash. So the bank gives, the builder $1 million, they get a mortgage, they sell that mortgage to an investor. The investor gets payments from the person paying the mortgage. But now it's like, well, the government steps in and says, hey, well, you can't foreclose on people for 12 months. So all these people now that are just can stop paying their mortgage. And obviously it's a good thing. You can't have massive default. There's negative consequences there, but like, what does that do going forward? If in like the investment markets for like mortgages, if you think now going forward, hey, well, if something bad happens again, will the government just step in again and say like, you can't repossess an asset? If you're a credit card company, if you're a lender on a car, like, guess what? If something really bad happens, you can't actually, you just got to eat it. And you're left holding the basket. That takes away a lot of incentive for investors. Investors take risk. That's the big thing. They take big risks. They invest lots of capital, and there's got to be, ways to compensate them for that risk. So there's all kinds of ripple effects. And I don't think we're going to understand how it fully impacts things for maybe, a few years, and seeing like, will there still be investment appetite for mortgages? Will there be investment appetite for, these bundles of credit card debt and things that help make the markets work? So there's a whole conversation to go down there of like, what's the ripple effect across all these sectors in the economy? And again, like there's a lot of theories, but like it's never happened before. There's never been a time in history where the government comes in and says, you know what, it's so bad. There's so many unemployed people. We're going to backstop all foreclosures for the entire country. Like that's crazy. It's insane. That $2 trillion. We'll just throw that out there.
It's easy to say that like, oh, this is more important people's health than the economy. But like what people don't really understand is we're actually like weighing out lives versus livelihoods, and like the lives of 1 million people versus the livelihoods of tens or hundreds of millions of people. And I'm not saying that I like have a side there. I'm just saying it's a big decision. It's not like something that should be made flippantly or based on rhetoric or virtue signaling,
And they're tethered. It's two sides of the exact same coin. It's not independent. It's not something that you can view independently.
So it's not mutually exclusive. Yeah,
exactly.
I'm almost feeling like the whole world hasn't realized that we're all going to die someday, and they're like all like freaking out about it at the same time at once. Like that is a reality. Like we're not going to live. We're not going to live forever in this lifetime. And I feel like
it is fascinating. Yeah. And I'll say one more thing, D, because I know we've gone down this rabbit hole, but like you can't even have this conversation we're having right now, which is kind of frustrating. Basically right now, if you talk about the economy or jobs, you're basically saying, well, you don't value lives and stuff. You're not even allowed to have the conversation. And that's just not healthy. Like obviously human life is the most important thing. And the hundreds of people that are dying every day in New York and these places, it's devastating and it's unbearable to see this devastation. But at the same time, like we can't just ignore what's happening economically. You can't. Like I think people are just trying to be optimistic about it. Like if we figure out the virus at some point we can just restart the economy and everything will be back to normal. But it's like, no, I mean, literally the government has already written a $2 trillion check, the biggest stimulus in history, and they're going back for another one and then another one. Like we're already in a massive deficit. Like someone's going to have to pay for that at some point, right? And all the other crazy thing is like all the other governments in the world, they're all doing the same thing. So usually governments can sell, like we can sell, stuff to China, and like we can get money from China, but like nobody's going to buy our bonds. Nobody's going to buy Chinese bonds. Like, and so there is going to be, there's a point where the economic devastation is so vast and so just massive that there isn't just a, hey, we got the vaccine, we're good, let's all go back and everyone get their jobs back and just restart. Like it's these forbearances on houses, like that 6 months that you didn't pay the mortgage doesn't just evaporate. Like it just gets tacked on to the end of your mortgage. Like people are still going to pay for these things. We're just giving people like delays in paying it. So yeah, I mean, I think like it needs to be discussed and considered. But it is fascinating just how quickly, like this is, and you talking about this Topher before, like how quickly we went, like literally probably 6 weeks ago when we first started, or 8 weeks ago, when we first started hearing about like Washington and stuff. And we were just living life as normal. And then they did some quarantining in Washington. You're like, that's insane. And how quickly we all went from like, that's crazy to we're all okay just staying in our homes and not leaving for just an uncapped period of time. Like, okay, we'll stay here. We'll listen to you, government, and we're going to stay in our houses. And you tell us when we can go back outside and work. Like, it is pretty crazy how like fear and your safety and your well-being in your life, like when that's in question, people give up a lot of liberties and a lot of freedoms. It's a fascinating topic.
It is very fascinating. Adaptability right there, right? The ability to adapt your social life to go from A to B because of circumstance, which is effectively what Topher was talking about with Darwin theory. Hey, let's jump into some questions. I'm seeing a few questions pop up. Adam Pickvo's got one. Good old Adam. This is fairly tactical. I'm interested in talking email marketing. Partials or cart abandonment is one part, but with a gadget brand, are you engaging in ongoing marketing to existing customers? If so, please elaborate on what's working and perhaps something that surprised you with the data or results. Super tactical. We don't do any email marketing.
Jeopardy or
yeah, I know.
Show.
We're not doing any email marketing on the gadget side, so can't comment there. But do either one of you have any thoughts on that?
I can share a little bit about it because for our political brand, we have a team that manages, like we do daily newsletter. We do a lot of stuff with email now. What I can say to the first part of the question, I can talk more to that about existing customers. Like that's huge. I think whatever business you're running out there right now, your customers are like an ATM. Probably a negative way to say it, but like they're an asset you can go and you can withdraw money from, right? It's something you've acquired. You've acquired their trust. You've acquired that first purchase, second purchase. Those are people that are way easier to sell again than a new customer. So everybody all the time should be focusing on continue to provide value and monetize existing customers. But especially now, like if you don't have the cash to buy traffic right now, like focus on creating compelling offers to your existing list, your existing customers. And depending on the size of your list, there's a lot of ways to do rentals. Like you can monetize. I mean, our political list, we have a broker that does email rentals and we get, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 for every email we send. Now, again, it varies. You might have 10,000 people. It's different. But it's definitely an asset that should be monetized, especially now. And this is when it's like so important to have done that in the first place and focus on building an asset, because when you have one, when things are bad, it's like this nice safety cushion you have where it's okay. I have this foundation of people here that trust me, that want to buy more stuff from me, and it doesn't cost me any money to go back and generate that transaction. So yeah, I mean, that's definitely something I'd recommend everyone doing. And we're actively doing it. We're launching new offers, new products, new collectibles every single week to our list. We're partnering up with networks. We're working them into our daily newsletter. So we're really focused on monetization, but also combined with content and giving value, not just selling.
Yeah, I think to add to that, because like I agree with everything Max just said, and on the front end email, like with exit pops or cart abandonment, that makes a lot of sense as well. But I think that the real thing that a lot of people miss outside of CLV or customer lifetime value with email is the opportunity to build a brand. A lot of people think that you build your brand in your like first ad or you build it on your webpage, but really you build it after people receive your product. And so I think that like there's a lot more that you can do to build value in your organization and who you are. When they didn't just give you their credit card, but they gave you their email, and you have like a direct line to them. And so I think that there's an opportunity to improve what like the M&A world calls NPS or Net Promoter Score. How likely is that person to promote you to their friends? And to think that that doesn't have an impact on your sales is insane. It totally does. And your enterprise value, your ability to sell your company in the future. And so for e-commerce brands, I would say that, yeah, you should totally do CLV. But I think that really part of it is just this experience of like, if you're selling something to somebody and you're getting them to change what they're currently doing and then buy your thing, you need to actually get them to use it. You need to get them to like you. You need to remind them of all the benefits. You need to, like all email is like good for all of that. And it's, as Max said, it's an asset, right? It's like something that you don't have to really pay for to be able to execute. So it's actually one of the lowest cost of acquisition channels out there. And a lot of people are like, well, I don't have anything to sell them. You'd be surprised how many more people will buy more of what you have, buy it for gifts, buy it every year. And so we help our brands do that. We do our own email as well, but it's a huge asset. And a lot of people, I mean, more brands than I can would care to mention have hundreds of thousands of customer emails that they've never done anything with. And it blows my mind. It's just a total waste of money.
So wacky.
So it's weird to me, but yeah, that's a common thing, and I think it's important.
Yeah, so wacky. The paradigm that I always use is it's kind of like borrowing money. You've got your family, then you've got your close friends, and then you have acquaintances and you have strangers. The likelihood of you getting success starts with family. So that is your most intimate circle. And it's so wild how so many people, I guess because we spend a lot of time with traffic people, a lot of the conversation sits with almost like trying to extract money out of strangers, but then neglecting, it's almost like binary. They focus so much on extracting money from strangers that they forget that there's family that you can still tap into, delight, give value to, and then have that mutual exchange. That's wild.
Even, by the way, even people that don't like your product at the end of the day that return it, if they had a really good experience with you, like in that period of time, like they're not going to go blast you on Amazon or, cause problems. And so there's a really big upside to make people like you, on the internet.
Absolutely. We've got one more question. So we've talked about building assets. Do you think there's interest from private equity or others for e-commerce brands that are not using Amazon as a channel, but using performance marketing instead?
I'll let Topher start this one because I'm interested to hear. He probably has a lot more experience with this than I do, but I have some thoughts, but I'll let you go first on that one.
Yeah, so there is both in the private equity and in the strategic. I imagine we're talking about M&A here versus investment, and if we're talking about acquisition, totally. A lot of people that it all comes down to you have to know what those buyers are interested in. And ultimately it's strong financials. It's like a well-run machine. It's something that where all the single points of failure have been removed. But yeah, if you're doing direct response and you're not doing Amazon, that would be a nice, interesting thing for anyone who's going to acquire it, whether it's PE or a strategic buyer, because they know they can plug in Amazon and it's just going to increase the amount of sales that you're doing kind of across the board. So yeah, there's a major interest in e-commerce brands, but the one thing that I've seen from talking to a lot of e-commerce brands that are kind of running and gunning is they don't really, or they don't realize what people care about. They care about intellectual property. They care about barriers into the market. They care about things like patents. They care about how you're monetizing your customers, NPS scores. But then they also care about things like EBITDA and what your cost of goods sold are. And so if you really want to learn, if you really want to know about a potential exit or an exit strategy, then you need to go dig into who those buyers are, what they care about, so that you can build that story in the company you're creating, rather than just kind of crushing it, being like, man, I did 40 million in sales and I'm ready to sell it. And then they're going to look at it and say, yeah, and I'll pay you 3 times EBITDA. And you only made $1 million last year. Okay, that's worth 3 million. Maybe that's great to you, maybe it's not, but you really have to pay attention to what they're interested in. But there is a huge appetite. There's a lot of PE people that are rolling up e-commerce brands into like, a big machine. That way they can run, because there's economies of scale of running 10 brands under one company rather than having 10 different companies, if that makes sense.
Yeah, get one vendor, one agency, one accounting firm, everything. Just a lot of synergies there. I would say the only thing, because there's nothing I can add to that. That was perfect. But just the like, I have a few friends right now that were like 5 months and 7 months into to pretty sizable exits to PE companies, and everything's on pause right now. So I think now is not the best. I think we'll get to a point where there's more clarity, and I think then there'll be a lot of cash flowing in. But right now, I think pretty much everything. I know a ton of people that were raising money, people that were selling, people that are buying things, and pretty much everything is at a complete standstill. So if you're trying to sell some right now, I would really just buckle down, get your business in the best possible shape, doing things Topher just said, because there will be a time when there is clarity of vaccines on the horizon, and then the people with the cash are going to really jump in and look to acquire things. But it's not right now.
Yeah, and people are buying right now, or they will be, but they're going to be buying cheap. Like right now, like I'm sitting around with cash looking for cheap things to buy, right? Like I'm not going to buy anything at a premium right now. So it's not the time to try to sell for a premium in any way. But just in general, there's a large appetite for people that are good at acquiring customers direct to consumer online,
Yeah, I was talking to our lawyers, and they facilitate, they work fairly heavily in the local tech startup scene here. So they facilitate a lot of fundraisers and stuff like that. Absolutely. Their advice is exactly the same. A lot of stuff has come to a screeching halt in terms of activity, very much reduced. But at the same time, their advice is, if you are looking to raise, if you're looking to sell, then use this time to buckle down, clean up your books, make sure that you have that narrative and you look at the things that matter, not just straight up revenue, but EBIT matters, and COGS matter, exactly like what Topher said and exactly like what Max said. Okay, so that was mind blowing. I feel like I've grown so much within the time that we have. I want to stay respectful of everyone's time. Let's cap off the show here. But that being said, before we end off, if people wanted to take the conversation further or find you or watch your videos or anything like that, Maxwell, what's the best place that people can find you at?
It's easiest. Just go to our website, unicorninnovations.com. That has everything. No plugs today. We're also, I would say, is like, because we kind of treat our info product business where we have some stuff we're planning in the future. But like right now we're just giving away everything for free because it's like, it can do more good and we don't need the money. So it's just like, instead of trying to sell courses for $1,000 to people, like when they could use that knowledge to start running affiliate offers and stuff. So I think we have links on the site that like, you can just go grab it all. So we're not selling anything. But yeah,
that's huge.
It's crazy. Like, one thing I'll say is it is crazy. Like how nuts. I got the idea from Ryan Dice because they did it with Digital Marketer. Like literally we've had almost 5,000 people from like a Facebook Live I did and an email take the free courses, which is awesome because like, to me, that's just a lot of people who are like taking our advice, which is they're acting and they want to learn. So that's really exciting to me. Like I'm optimistic just seeing those types of things. It's really, really awesome to see.
Totally. Yeah. And I would recommend it. Max is super smart and he gives a lot of value whenever he talks. And so I especially on the tactical side, because he's like in it, and I'm just like this guy that's over in the philosophy realm all the time.
Brilliant, dude.
Thank you. But yeah, but I'm not an influencer, right? Like I don't normally do this stuff. I've chatted because you asked me to, D, and I'm happy to help people kind of understand what's going on through this time. But yeah, I do though have regular conversations with our partners, right? So if you want to dig into GiddyUp, just go to GiddyUp.io. And if you have a brand, we'd love to check it out. If you are a marketer, you should come promote some of our offers, and that will give you more of an opportunity to come to one of our events or meet me or talk to me. Outside of that, LinkedIn is pretty much the easiest way to get a hold of me if somebody wants to.
Yeah, both these guys' minds are fascinating. And I've been following Maxwell for a long time, and also we're right now having conversations on the GiddyUp side. We're actually connected with Seth the GiddyUp side as well. So for those of you that are out there thinking about it, I think both Maxwell and I can vouch for the fact that GiddyUp are a really genuine bunch of great people to work with to get you set up. We're still at the setting up phase, and it's been amazing so far. So thank you both.
Thank you. Yeah, let's crush it together. It's good.
Absolutely. Time. Thank you both so much for coming on the show. I'm gonna just do a quick wrap up, say bye to everyone else that's watching, and then we can wrap up on our own as well.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Beautiful. Thank you, everyone. All right, that was the show. That was Maxwell and Topher. I feel so grateful to have those two on the show. It really is so much that I learned. I hope that you guys learned the same as well. Thank you so much for your attention. I really do appreciate it. If you like what you saw, please subscribe, like, share, tag a friend who needs to see this. We're doing this all the time. And just like what Maxwell is doing, my only intention here is to just give back as much as we can. So I'll see you next time. Take it easy.